secret of laughter lies in the laughing, not in the search for joy. It's a swallow winging on the wind, it's innocence in a boy. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Joy in the singing, not in the song. Some grasp but never crave. If you think that laughter lies in things, to things you'll be but a slave. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Joy in the giving, not in the gaining. Grasp and you never sing. You could win the world and still be poor. Win peace and live like a king. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Sing when the sun shines, sing when the rain falls, sing when your road seems strange. In the tempest seize the lightning flash and ride the wings of change.
Join us.
Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose soul has learned to fly. Luru-luru-lero, luru-luru-lai. Joy will come to anyone whose
One more, okay.
Introduce us?
Go
Make
ahead.
us channels?
What?
Do you want to say something about this song, Make Us
Go
Channels?
ahead.
This song is inspired by the life of St. Francis.
Lord Most High, our Heavenly Father, all our lives we dedicate to Thee. All our labors, all our joys and woes, all our pleasure, all our melodies. Make us each a channel of Thy peace. When in darkness, guide us from above. Where there's sorrow, may we sow Thy joy. Where there's hatred, may we share Thy love. Lord Most High, our Heavenly Father, all our lives we dedicate to Thee. All our labors, all our joys and woes, all our pleasure, all our melody. Make us each a channel of Thy peace. When in darkness, guide us from above. Where there's sorrow, may we sow Thy joy. Where there's hatred, may we share Thy love.
Very good. I'm hoping in my talk today to show you how we can all be channels of God's love. This is our duty in life, and this is what I hope to talk about today. There was a young man who lived in the ashram with his guru and a number of other disciples, and the young man decided he wanted to be more alone, less with all these other people and the duties of an ashram and so on. So he went off and got a little hut on the outside of a town. And he was wearing only a kopin, a little loincloth. And after some time, he had two kopins, and one was hanging on a branch of a tree. And one day he woke up and he found that this kopin was being eaten away by a mouse. And he thought, what am I to do? Somebody said, why don't you get a cat? That will get rid of the mouse. So he got a cat. Then the cat needed food. So he had to go into town to beg milk for the cat. And somebody said to him, oh, you don't need to beg all the time for milk. Get a cow, it'll produce the milk for the cat. And so he thought, that's a good idea, I'll get a cow. So he got a cow. Then he had to feed the cow. And so he started to get a field, but he didn't like to spend the time developing that field so there would be enough food for the cow to eat. And somebody suggested to him, what you need to do is get married and have children, and the children will be able to take care of it. And just then his guru appeared on the scene, just when the man was looking on for a wife. And he said, what is all this about? And the young man laughed. He said, you see, master, this is all for a rag. And he went back and lived in the ashram. Well, too much of what we do in life is all for a rag. We think we need this in order to do that, in order to do that, in order to accomplish other things. And at the end, we die from a heart attack, or never do we die completely fulfilled until we've understood that we will not find what we're looking for in this world. It doesn't exist. And how many lifetimes do we wander in order to find that goal? Well, think of days of Brahma. That's not enough just to think of a few lifetimes. Once you've reached from the animal to the human level, it takes 8 to 12 million lives. And after that, mankind has so many ways. He has free will, and he can in countless different ways. A mosquito can only suck blood, but a man can suck all kinds of things. And he wants money, and he wants this and that and the other. And so if this woman doesn't do, that woman will do it. Another. He can go on for millions of lifetimes, and you've been doing it. And what has it got you? You're still wondering, what is it all about? I remember when I was a young man, I was born into a wealthy home, so I didn't need to think about money. In fact, I decided money is not the answer. I don't want money. My father, when I was 16 years old, suggested that he wanted to buy me a tuxedo. I said, Dad, don't bother, I'll never wear it. In fact, I'll never earn enough money to pay income tax. Money, I'd seen through that delusion. It didn't matter anything to me. But I wanted truth, and I wanted it desperately, and I didn't know where to find it. I could have sought it in the church, but let's face it, the churches don't give you anything. And I just didn't want that kind of God. He was too boring. I wanted something that would really shake me. And I tried through astronomy. I tried to think maybe through the infinity of clouds and galaxies and star systems and so on, that I would find the truth I'm looking for. And after a year of this, I began to think, well, what difference does it make to you and me how many galaxies there are in the universe? I've got to change something else. So I tried through political systems to uplift humanity. And I saw that no system will do it. Man has to change himself. So I thought that I must somehow inspire individuals to change. And I tried through the arts and through music. I mean, this is some of my music here, but it didn't give me the answer I was looking for. And I remember one night I was studying to be a playwright. I wanted to change the world through drama. And I realized that wasn't going to work. Look at how great the plays of Shakespeare are, and yet how many lives have they really changed? Very few. And so I began to think, everything is a dead end. The only people in history who've really done anything of lasting good have been Jesus Christ, Buddha, other great teachers. I didn't know about Hinduism at the time, or I would certainly have named Indian saints. But I didn't know anything of saints even. And I remember I took a long walk out into the night, and I asked myself, if there's a God, what must he be? And I thought, well, I'm asking this question consciously. Therefore, I'm conscious. Therefore, he must be consciousness. Otherwise, where would I have gotten this consciousness from? And if he is consciousness, then I'm an expression of that consciousness. And it was a very Advaitic discovery. I realized that the whole truth that I'm looking for has to be that God with whom I must be more and more in tune. And I remember I came back to my apartment. I was living with 4 other young men, and I was absolutely staggered by the grandeur of this conception that I have to know God. And I had never thought it possible before. In fact, I was wondering, am I going crazy? I didn't know about saints who had lived in the past, who had known God. And I reached the point where I was desperate. I thought, I didn't know, as I said, I didn't know anything about Indian teachings, but what I came up with was a very Advaitic teaching. And I thought maybe I should go to Brazil, to a jungle there, and spend my life meditating. And if I can find a little peace of mind, that will be all I'm looking for. And somehow God took a hand in it at this point. My parents, I was only 22, and my parents were my father was an oil geologist for Esso, and he was sent by Esso to Egypt. And the very day that I put my mother on the ship to go join him, I walked uptown New York and I found Autobiography of a Yogi. It absolutely blew my mind to find that finding God is possible, to find that it doesn't give you just peace of mind, it gives you joy and love and bliss infinite. And I was just so overwhelmed with this discovery. I took the next bus from New York to Los Angeles. And the moment I met my guru, I said, I want to be your disciple. And with God's grace, he accepted me that day. That was 64 years ago. And I've been teaching his teachings ever since. The first thing that you need to know if you really want truth, you need to find a guru. But not just anybody, somebody who can touch your soul, as Yogananda touched mine. I found that it wasn't just teachings that I absorbed from him, it was his vibrations. He would, in his presence, I would suddenly feel, even though he might be talking about a perfectly mundane thing like holes that needed to be filled in the driveway after a heavy rain, and I would just feel so much bliss that it was overwhelming. He would look into my eyes, and I would feel first of all as if I were looking into infinity. And there was no ego there. There was no thought of self. There was no I, Yogananda. He was just an instrument for God. I remember one time I was sitting at his feet, and he was editing his book and the commentaries on the Gita. And afterwards he asked me to help him stand up, and I did, and he looked at me very closely like this, and he said, just a bulge of the ocean. He never saw himself as Yogananda. He used to say, I killed Yogananda long ago. No one dwells in this temple now but God. And in his presence I felt so much love. And since then I have come to see that everybody is an expression of that. We have the idea in the West and in the East both, that God is something separate from us. I think that his teaching is badly needed today, because although there have been many teachers in India, he put this ancient teaching in modern terms that we can understand. You know, only 100 years ago, it was discovered that matter has no reality. Matter is only a vibration of energy. This table that I'm hitting is not hard. It's just energy in a certain rate of vibration. This body is the same. You are the same. And that energy is also only a vibration of thought. And those thoughts are vibrations of the infinite consciousness. We are all just God's dream. We have no other reality. Your job in life is to find who you are. Your job in life is to find that you are a part of God. And as long as you want to roam in ignorance, as long as you want to hold on to this ego, ego is fine, except that it's the cause of all your troubles. All your suffering comes from ego. All your pain, all your misunderstandings of everything. We must get rid, first of all, in life, we must get rid of this sense of ego. We don't have to. You can go on wandering as long as you want to. But if you want to find real joy in yourself, God, Adi Shankara said, God is Satchidananda, ever existing, ever conscious, and my Guru added, ever new bliss. That bliss is who you are. And everybody in the world is seeking for the same thing, but they don't know it. Isn't it true that everybody in the world, the only thing people want is happiness? But they think they'll find it in money, they think they'll find it in sex, they think they'll find it in drugs or alcohol, they think they'll find it in fame, they think they'll find it in all sorts of outward ways. It doesn't exist there. Everything that you are looking for is inside yourself. It's like a story of a musk deer, that at a certain season in the year, it secretes in a pouch in its navel the odor of musk. And it runs frantically from tree to stream to bush, looking for the source of this fragrance. And sometimes in desperation it will cast itself off a high crag, and the hunter will come and take that pouch and sell it for a very expensive perfume in the marketplace. Oh, musk dear, if only you had understood that the fragrance you were seeking is in your own self. I'm not saying you must give up everything and become a hermit. The Himalayas would be crowded if you did. Wherever you are, and you can be a householder. You don't have to be outwardly renunciate, but inwardly renounce attachment. Renounce ego. Renounce the feeling that I want to be important. If people insult you, thank them for reminding you that you are not important. If people praise you, say God is the doer. I said this to a woman in our church in Hollywood many years ago. She complimented me on my talk. And I said, well, God is the doer. She said, oh, really? I knew it was good. I didn't know it was that good. Well, that's not what I meant. God does everything through you. He dreams you. And that means he dreams also your mistakes. Don't ever say, ma papi hu, I'm a sinner. Never say it. You can even say, he did it through me. It helps you to get rid of that sin. You have attachment because of certain wrong actions in the past. You have desires. But in time you will overcome all of these. And you are not an ordinary human being. You are God himself in that form. And it is your destiny. And you have no choice in the matter. Because there's only one reality in existence, that is God. Your destiny is to become one with him. And whether you want to take a long time doing it or a short time. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, get away from my ocean of suffering and misery. And yet people keep going. Why? Because it's a certain amount of pleasure in it too. You know, a mosquito bite feels bad, and yet it feels nice to scratch it. And so it is with this world. It gives you a certain amount of pleasure too. But in the end, what have you gained from it? Absolutely nothing. This world won't give you what you're looking for. You will only find it in communion with God. Now, supposing you're a householder. I suspect most of you are householders. I don't see many people dressed in monastic garb here. Is there any hope for you? Absolutely yes. We can all find God. We can all think of God. Everything that you do, think of him. Everything you do, give to him. When you eat food, offer it first to him. And you know, one of the most wonderful experiences I've had in this life was it was a dream I had in Florence, Italy. And in this dream, I realized that all the crowds of people in the streets, they were all just seeking the same thing I'm seeking. Everybody wants that Satchit Ananda. They don't know it. They may look for it in the wrong way, but they all want it. And this gave me a feeling of absolute love for everybody. What is the goal of life? That bliss that is the source and reality of your own being. So I beg of you that as you go through life, give God a chance. You know, we say, I don't know if there's a God. You can be an atheist or whatever you like, but just give him a chance. You'll find that the more you bring that thought into your life, the more bliss will come to you. And I've seen that happen so many times. You know, a few years ago, I was inspired by Divine Mother. I think of God as my Divine Mother. And I was inspired by her to do a certain work. And when the work was finished, it took 1.5 years, I like to celebrate with Divine Mother. And so I went to a place in California called Carmel by the Sea. It's a beautiful place, a tourist place. And I forgot that it was August, the height of the tourist season. Everybody went to Carmel. And I couldn't find any place. And then I Finally found a room, but it was much more expensive than I can afford. And I said, well, I'm not going to go to some cheap town. I wanted to come to Carmel to celebrate with you, Divine Mother. So what shall I do? And I said, all right, I'll pay for the room. I just pray to you that you have given me the money to get home. And I pulled up my wallet to pay him. He said, don't pay me. I said, well, I'd rather pay you now because I didn't know if I'd have it at the end of the stay there. So, thank you. And so, the man said, no, don't pay me at all. I'll just write you down as a tourist agent, a travel agent. And I said, well, why? He said, I don't know, I just like you. So Divine Mother gave me a room free. Then I went out to dinner, and the owner of the restaurant came and sat down with me, and at the end of it, he wouldn't let me pay. When you do things, just give God a chance. You'll see that in amazing ways, He does take care of you. He does listen to you. The trouble with most people's prayers is he's too confused. He doesn't know quite which prayer you're praying. You have so many different things in your mind going on. But if you can pray with concentration, He will answer that prayer. Give Him a chance. Try it. You'll be amazed to see how God does listen, God does answer. So whatever your life, think of God. Share your thoughts with God. The goal of life is Ananda. There is no other goal. The goal of life is union with God and with Ananda. There is no other goal. And everything else is pastime. Everything else is wasting time, like on a treadmill, where you walk and walk and walk and so you're staying in the same place. I have been around the world many times. I've been so many countries. In fact, my life has been spent traveling. At 6 months, my first travel was from Romania to America. And I haven't stopped since. But I've seen one thing, that those people who thought of other people and tried to help other people, they were happy. Those people who grabbed for themselves were not happy. Jesus Christ said it is more blessed to give than to receive. Blessed because you feel bliss in giving to people, and you feel a loss when you take from people. We're coming, I should tell you this, to a very serious financial crisis in the world. It will begin in America, but it will spread all over the world. People have been too greedy. People have thought, what's in it for me? There's me-firstism is the religion of mankind today. We have to change this religion. We have to understand that God is the truth that we're looking for. And when we do, then we feel more and more. If you share every thought with God, you'll see that that thought brings you more and more joy. If you try to find God, there's a higher. You see, Yogananda said, our thoughts are universally rooted, not individually rooted. That's in his autobiography. Universally rooted. That means we don't produce our thoughts with our brains. Our brains are only transmitting stations for the level of consciousness on which we are. I remember many years ago, I fell into a mood. I was very young then, and I tried to reason my way out of it, and reason always follows feeling. So the more I reasoned, the worse the mood got. So I thought, okay, let me try something else. Let me try changing my level of consciousness. So I sat down in my meditation room and put my mind here. And only after 5 minutes, I was completely, my mood changed completely. Your thoughts depend upon the level of consciousness on which you live. So the first thing, and this is where yoga comes in, yoga is not forcing God to do anything. Yoga is simply cooperating with His grace. His grace works in certain ways. If you want to know God, your energy, this is the whole story of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a war between the good and the bad soldiers in your own consciousness. The good ones who are trying to lift your consciousness, the bad ones who are trying to lower it. You're on the battlefield. This body is the Kshetra, the battlefield. You are on the battlefield between these two armies. And when Arjuna and Krishna go between the two armies, they're watching these two. And the whole story is based on that. So you must work with the good qualities, those which will give you happiness. And you know, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita too, in the 2nd chapter, he said there is no death. These people who die aren't dying. What he meant was that when you kill anger, let us say, it becomes calmness. When you kill greed, it becomes generosity. All the energy that went into lower qualities becomes transmuted into higher qualities. The Bhagavad Gita is a much deeper scripture than most people realize. It is, I would say, the greatest scripture in the world. And do read it. You know, Yogananda wrote his commentaries on it, and I urge you to read that book, the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, because it shows all of it, how you, through that book, you can find God. My guru, when he finished writing his commentary on the book, he said to me, millions will find God through this book. Not just thousands, millions. I have seen it. I know. We must understand that everything that this world tells us to seek for our own happiness will never give it to us. You have to learn to go on alone, like that song we just listened to. You have to learn to stand on your own feet and say, these are my values and I cannot be shaken from them. When Yogananda wrote his book, autobiography, he went from publisher to publisher to publisher. Nobody wanted it. They thought it would not succeed. Finally found little publishing house, philosophical library. It was started by a Romanian who wanted to publish certain classics, and they finally accepted it. But that book, which was rejected by everybody, is now the most sold, the bestseller among all autobiographies in all history. It has been read by many, millions of people. If you stand by what you believe, and if you will do what is right for your own dharma, don't think about what anybody else is saying. It will work. When I wanted to start a community, everybody told me it couldn't work. Many other people have tried, it's always failed. I knew it would work because my guru had said it would work. And I now have 9 communities, thriving communities, with a total of more than 1,000 people living in them. Stick to what you believe in, and you will see. When I tried to get a publisher to buy my books, the same thing. No publisher wanted them, they won't sell. I said, all right, I'll start my own publishing company and do it myself. And they've now sold over 3 million copies in English in America and translated into 32 languages, sold many more in other languages. If you feel guided by God to do something, don't let anybody stop you. Don't listen to the voice of the crowds because it's always wrong. The majority is always wrong. The minority has a chance of being right. So be true to yourself. Never tell a lie. This is something I have been a little disappointed in India. If people say, I definitely will do so, you know they won't do it. When you say you're going to do it, do it. If you want to buy a newspaper and you tell other people I'm going to buy a newspaper, and then the newspaper comes to you, go out and buy it anyway because you said you would. Whatever you say, be strictly true to your word. Yata dharma tata jaya. Where there is truth, there is success, victory, and of all kinds. Never tell a lie. Another thing is never cheat anybody. Because if you are kind to them, they will be kind to you. I've never made any money myself, but I've always gotten what I needed. I don't take salary. I don't have any income from my books. I refuse royalties. But always people take care of me. They will take care of you if you live for God. If you do everything for God, and yes, you have a family to raise, you have children to put through college, you have a different life from mine. Okay, I can understand that. But if you are strictly truthful, I have seen by absolute truthfulness that God never lets me down. I always come out in the end. There was one time when I was starting Ananda, and I had to work very hard. I had to teach yoga classes, Raja Yoga and Hatha Yoga, in city after city every night of the week. And it was very tiring. At that time, somebody came to me and he said, I have some money that I've inherited and I want your advice. Should I join Ananda, in which case I'll give my inheritance to Ananda, or should I go to India? And I said, well, how much was the inheritance? He said $200,000. Nowadays, it would be about $1 million. I wasn't even tempted. I only asked him because I wanted to know if he had enough money to go to India. So I said, go to India. He didn't give me, if he hadn't given me that choice, then I might have said, come to Ananda. But I've been very rigidly dharmic, and I found that it always pays off. So never tell a lie, never be dishonest, never cut corners a little bit. And always when you say you're going to do something, keep that promise. The goal of life is to live a dharmic life. The goal of life is in your business. Always think in terms of how can you help people, not how they will help you. If you do that, they will always want to help you. If you go to somebody in a shop and say, do you have such and such? They say no. Can you tell me where they might find it? Well, I can't tell you that. You don't go back to that shop. But if that shop tells you, oh yes, another shop down the road has what you're looking for, you'll go back to this shop because you trust their integrity. If you are honest and truthful, people will always appreciate you. They will support you, and they'll give you anything that you need. So what is the goal of life? It is to live by God's will while we're living in this world. It is to live by God's will by getting out of the ego and realizing that the one thing we're looking for in this world is the divine. And to live dharmically is the only way you can find God. If you don't live dharmically, He knows. He knows every little thought you think. I was amazed. One time I was with my guru, and when I was with my guru, I'd been invited to go and do yoga postures. With this old body, I can't do them now. But I did them, and then some. This was in Beverly Hills, where there are many atheistic Jewish psychologists. And this one of them grabbed me and tried to poke fun at the things I believed in. And I just answered. I told him a few miracles I'd seen with my own eyes. And I could see he was looking at in his mind, thinking I could see this patient on Wednesday at 11. But when I came back, the next 2 days later, I was with my guru. And he said to me, by the way, when you're with atheists and materialistic people, don't talk about miracles. I said, you knew? He said, I know every thought you think. That's the benefit of having a guru. He can set you straight. He can talk out loud. The Bible, you can read the Bible. It won't answer your questions. A guru will. Go to somebody who knows God. Go to somebody who's close to God. Go to somebody who's wiser than you. Good company is the most important thing you can have. Don't think because this is a good friend, you want to be with him if you pulls your mind down. Be with those who try to lift your mind upward. And in the most important thing, it isn't enough just to believe in God. What does belief matter? People used to believe the world is flat. That didn't make it so. You have to love God. And He can give you that love if you don't feel it. As I said, you're between these two forces, Satan on the one side, God on the other. And if you turn toward God, He will pull you. And the more you turn toward Him, the more you'll feel His energy pulling you. Or on the other hand, if you pull toward Satan, what is Satan? The power of Maya. But it's a conscious power. And if you get into that, it will pull you in that direction. So offer every thought to God. offer everything to God and think of Him. Keep Him in your mind. You'll see that more and more He will draw you. And He'll draw you first to books, then to good lectures, and finally He will draw you to a true guru. And without a guru you cannot find God, because that is the law of God. I remember this story that a great saint in India told me many years ago about a man called Haridas. And I don't mean our Haridas. And there was another saint in the same village who was also a saint. He was a potter by profession. One time they had a big mela, and all the disciples of both teachers came, and this potter, just sort of the way his profession is, he went and slapped every person like that to see if the pot was solid. And when he came to Namdev, it was Namdev, not Haridas. Namdev, when he came to him and slapped him, Namdev, why do you do that? And the potter stood up calmly. He said, there seems to be a crack in this pot. And everybody laughed. And Namdev was very discouraged. He went to Krishna, and he used to communicate with Krishna in the temple. And he said to Krishna, why did you allow me to be humiliated in front of all these devotees? And Krishna said, well, I can't help it. There is a crack in that pot. And he said, well, then, Lord, please show me how to get rid of it. He said, well, you need a guru. And Namdev said, well, I'll see you, Lord, myself. Why do I need with a guru? You can tell me everything. Krishna said, I can tell you, but to find me, you have to have the power that is conferred through a guru. And so he told him about this man in a village. And he went, and he said, by the way, don't be alarmed if he acts a little strange. That's just his way. Anyway, he went to this village, and he asked for this man, and they said, oh, that crazy fool, he's up there to the temple somewhere, that's where he hangs out. And so he went up there, and he didn't find anybody. He found this old beggar lying on the floor, and to his horror, he saw that this beggar had his feet pointing toward the Shiva Lingam. And he said, take your feet away. And the man said, well, you see, my son, I'm very old. It's hard for me to move. Would you please move my feet to where they don't point toward the linga? And he quickly took them up. There was a lingam there. And he put it in. Everywhere he put his feet, there was a linga. Finally, he realized that this was the guru that Krishna had sent him to. And then the guru told him that you have been too arrogant. You must be in God. And he touched him, and he gave him that touch. And then Damdev was walking around the countryside in bliss. And one day he happened to see the temple where he used to worship Krishna. So he came back there, and he prostrated himself, and Krishna said, where have you been, my child? I haven't seen you for so long. And Namdev said, why should I come back here, Lord? When everywhere I look, I see you. And then Krishna said, now, there are no leaks in that pot. So we must get rid of those leaks of ego. We must free ourselves from all self-delusion. And when we achieve that, then we achieve the infinite. So I beg of you, be sincere and seek as true. As it says in the Bible, all those who received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. You have to receive that grace in order to experience it. So find a true guru. Find one who you think, not just any old beggar by the street, but somebody who you feel knows God, and become his disciple. And then love God. He will direct you to that man. You know, I didn't know the meaning of the word guru. I didn't know gurus existed. I didn't know yoga existed. I thought it was some sort of yogurt. I didn't know Hinduism existed. I knew nothing. I read that book, Autobiography of a Yogi. I took the next bus across the country. I said, this is the only thing I want. In those days, fortunately, people couldn't travel by air. My parents couldn't fly back and drag me back. They could only come by ship. So it was 2 years before they finally got to come and visit me. By then I was firmly on the path. But remember, my words are true words, and they can change your life if you listen to them. Let's have some song. I need help getting up. I'd like to finish with music. Okay. Okay.
Sing Love as a Magician?
Yes. Love is all I know, sun rays on the snow of a winter long in darkness without song. Oh, my heart's afire, burning all desire. Only you remain and life again. Too long I did stray, flung lifetimes away, imagined you did not care. I know now your smile was mine all the while. I listened and love was there. I can't breathe for love. All the stars above call to me, come home. Life's waves all end in foam. Only love can heal all the pain I feel. What a fool was I to turn away. And then, now I'm going to sing a song.
The Pune choir can come up.
I've written 420 songs and melodies. Peace gave us the mountain, peace gave us the sky. Nightly when starlight enfolds us, peace is its lullaby. Day and fresh labor's begun. Amen. Amen. Peace gave us the season.